So a bit later when we're looking at these problems involving equations of motion, we'll get to those in a minute, they'll sometimes end up in the form of a quadratic. Now, I don't really have time to go into the details of quadratic equations. We could spend a couple of weeks or more talking about what quadratic equations are. Some of you will be very familiar with them and it won't be an issue. For the rest of you who maybe don't remember quadratics or it's been too long since you did them, all I'm going to do is work through that you've enough of the theory that you'll be able to solve these types of equations, I hope, when we get to them, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. Quadratic equations, so something of the form, let me just give you a little bit more information. So you'll have something of, if you were just to plot something like y equals, or let me just have a think about one. So for example, x squared minus 8x plus 12 or something like that. If we were to plot that, what it would end up looking like is, so we could just draw this. So we can just put in values for x and see what y would be equal to. I'm just going to have to make this up as I go along. I haven't really thought about this yet. Go down another one. So what I'm doing is just going to draw it just to show you what these things look like. And you can always just draw them yourself if ever you're interested. 6, 8, 10, 12. So if we want to figure out what this graph looks like, then we just put in some values of x and look at what y would be. So if x was 0, x squared 0, 8x 0, so y would be 12. So that would be this point here. For x is 1, you're going to have 1, take away 8, minus 7, plus 12. 12 minus 7 is 5. Going to be here somewhere. For x is 2, so this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and this is x and this is y. So for x is 2, you're going to get 4 minus 16, which is 12. It's minus 12, sorry. 4 minus 16 is minus 12, plus 12 is 0, so it's going to be 0. For 3, you're going to get 9 minus 8 times 3. So 3 squared is 9, minus 8 times 3 equals plus 12. It's minus 3. So this is minus 2, minus 3 is put here somewhere. This is minus 2, minus 4. X equals 4, you're going to get 16. So 4 squared is 16. 4 squared minus 8 times 4 plus 12 is equal to minus 4. It's going to be here. And I know I could go through this and figure them all out, but I kind of know it's going to be symmetrical about that point. So it's going to look something like that. And so if we were to draw this graph, it would look something like so. And then what we could say is, well, when you're solving the types of equations we're talking about, we're actually solving something like x squared minus 8x plus 12 equals 0. So we're trying to solve an equation. We're making this equal to 0. In other words, y is 0. So you're just finding the points at which y is 0, which would be this point and this point. And so for this type of equation where you've got x squared minus 8x plus 12 equals 0, you're often going to have two solutions. Not often, well, not always. Often you're going to have two solutions. And so you just have to be aware of that. And when you're solving the problem, you've got to try and figure out physically one of those solutions might not even be possible. So if you were talking about time, it might be at a negative time or something like that. Or sometimes you're just going to have a think about which of those solutions makes more sense. So there's always going to be two solutions to this. There's sometimes going to be two solutions to this type of equation. There might be no solutions, or there might be one solution, but most commonly there'll be two solutions for that type of problem. Okay, so that's basically what a quadratic is. It's just, if you plot it, it's just this kind of curve. And so y equals ax squared plus or minus bx plus c, or whatever it ends up being, you're going to get some kind of curve. Could be the other way up. So if you had a negative, if I made all this negative, let me just do it. So that would be this one here. You could make all this negative, so that would be x equals minus x squared plus 8x minus 12. Then it would just end up being the opposite of what we've got. It's 4 minus 6 minus 8 minus 10 minus 12. So it would actually look something like this. Just drawn through it all. This would be here. This one would be here. So you'd end up with, let me just do it in a different color. So it would be coming the opposite way, like so. So this is just putting in values of x and figuring out what y would be. Not very well drawn, apologies. And so that would be this one here. Okay, so it could be something like that. It could be the other way up. But in either case, for this one here, it's got two solutions. X equals 2 and x equals 6 will make this here true. Anyway, you don't have to learn all that. I'm just giving you a bit of background. But to solve these types of things, the first thing we have to do is put them into the right form. So they're always going to be a number times x squared plus a number times x plus a number equals 0. This x squared could be any letter. Could be t, could be v, could be z, could be u. But there's always going to be a number times something squared plus a number times something plus a number equals 0. And then this first thing is A, this second thing is B, this third thing is C. But we have to put it into that form. For example, here I can see I've got an x and I've got an x squared and I've got a number, but it's not in this order. So the first thing I need to do is to put it into the correct order. So we've got 10 is equal to 4x plus 6x squared. So what I might have to do is move things across to the other side. So I'm subtracting from both sides, so you're going to get minus 6x squared minus 4x. I want my x next. First I want my x squared, then I want my x, plus 10, because it was already on that side, equals 0. So in that case, we have got a is equal to minus 6. So it asked us what a, b, and c would be. So you can see a is minus 6. B, you always take the sign in front of it, with it. So b is equal to minus 4. And c is equal to positive 10, which is just 10. Okay. And then in a minute, I'll tell you a formula that you can use with these three numbers that'll let you figure out what x will make this equation true. Okay, for the second one, we have got 100 is equal to 15 plus 5t. Okay, so our variable this time is t instead of x, but the same stuff applies. Doesn't really matter what that variable is, plus a half times 9.81 looks a bit like gravity, eh? So this is a bit like what we are going to find when we're solving these problems. So what I can see is I've got a t squared, so we're going to get this kind of equation, ax squared plus bx plus c, but it's going to have a t in it instead of an x in it. So let's try and simplify this a little bit first. So we would have something like a 100, oh well, what I could do is simplify to start with. So let's take this 15 over, and that'll be negative 15 from both sides, so this is going to be 100 minus 15, so that's going to end up as 85 is equal to 5t, can't do anything with that. And then plus a half times 9.81 plus 0.5 times 9.81 is equal to 4.905 t squared. And now I just take everything over to the other side, so we're going to get minus 4.905 t squared minus 5t plus 85 equals 0. Now, there is one thing I could do here, and I might do it above as well. Let me just bring this down a little bit. The negative number's nice when you're doing the calcs. It can be tidier if you use more positive numbers than negative numbers. What I could have done here, I could have multiplied everything by minus 1, both sides by minus 1. So that would be 6x squared plus 4x minus 10. So you're multiplying everything by negative 1 equals 0, in which case I would have got a equals 6, b equals 4, and c is equal to minus 10. Now what we'll find is, even though I got a different answer, different result for a, b, and c in terms of their opposite, negative, or they're positive instead of negative, or negative instead of positive, we'll still end up with the same x at the end of the day when we solve this using the thing I'll show you next. So I'm going to do the same thing with this one. I'm going to do 4.905 t squared plus, so I'm just timesing everything by minus 1, plus 5t minus 85 is equal to 0. You will still get the same answer. Therefore, a is equal to 4.905 b is equal to 5, and c is equal to minus 85. Let me just quickly explain why this times it by -1 doesn't make any difference. So you can see it here. So what we did was we times all this by -1 both sides, and that changes what these a, b, and c are, but it doesn't change the value of what x is, and that's because of this effect here. You'll see when I times this by -1, it turns the whole graph upside down, but it doesn't change the point at which it crosses the x-axis. And so this gubbins here, minus x squared plus 8x minus 12 equals 0. It has the same solutions. The two values that make that true are 2 and 6. Has the same solutions as this one, the opposite or the negative of all that, x squared minus 8x plus 12. It crosses the x-axis at the same positions. And so this point here, where I've times both of these by -1, it does not change the answer to the equation. Doesn't change the value of x that makes that true. This last one, so we've got 10 plus 3v plus 2v squared. It keeps going on this time. So c, we've got 10 plus 3v plus 2v squared is equal to v plus 5v squared. Yeah. So this time, what we're going to do is take everything over to one side. I'm going to do my v squareds first. So I can't add a v plus a v squared, it's not allowed. So you can only add v squareds to v squared. So I can do a 2v squared. We'll get to that in a minute. And then, but I can't add a v squared with a v, and I can't add a number with a v. Okay, you can only add numbers to numbers, you can only add v's to v's, and you can only add v squareds to v squareds, or whatever the letter was, x, y, t, whatever. So first thing we'll do is we'll get our v squares first, and we'll bring this v squared across to the other side. And so we are going to get 2v squared minus 5v squared, because we're bringing it from the other side, plus 3v minus v, 3v minus v, that's those done, plus 10, because it was already on the right side, is equal to 0. So we're going to get minus 3v squared plus 2v plus 10 is equal to 0. Therefore, therefore, a is equal to, this time we've got two positive numbers already, so I'm not going to multiply by -1. So a is going to be equal to minus 3, b is equal to 2, and c is equal to 10. Okay, so we're just rearranging these things so we get it in the terms of square first, then the letter itself, and then a number. And then from that we can figure out what a, b, and c are, because it's in the form ax squared plus bx plus c, or whatever that letter is. Okay, is that everything it asked for? It is. Then in the next stage, we'll just show, once you've got these numbers, how can you find the value that will make this equation true?